All right, everybody. Good late morning, and yeah, I don't have a lot for this one, but the Huskies play another game tomorrow. Tomorrow, late afternoon. It's uh, it's the last game of the regular season. I assume that we're getting a bowl game. I guess we haven't officially yet, but 6 wins is good enough, and it's a good thing that it is because I can tell you we're probably not getting that seventh. It's this is a weird one, right? Because you look at this game and it feels like there's really not much to say. And the only way I see this game being interesting, much less the Huskies winning, would be if Oregon decides they just don't care and they're just trying to get ready for the championship game and the playoff. Like if Oregon actually wants to win this game, I don't see a heck of a lot going on here. And I assume they do want to win this game. I assume they want to go undefeated. I assume that they want to aim for that perfect season. And if I were in their position, I know I would. So I don't see that happening. So I can't imagine anything particularly good happening tomorrow afternoon. But let's talk about it for a minute here. First, before I get into whatever little bit I can talk about this game, I do plan on live streaming a watch along of it. It will be not from the usual place. I will be on my laptop. So the stream quality and the way in which the stream is set up is not going to look nearly as good. The microphone probably won't be as good. Nothing about it is going to be as good as I'm used to. So we're just going to go with it, and we're just going to see what see how it goes. I don't think there's going to be a lot of people who turn out for this one, and if a lot of people do turn out for this one, they'll probably tune out pretty quickly because of the nature of this game. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to turn on the stream tomorrow afternoon. I'm going to hope something good happens. And if it does happen, I'm going to be really excited because regardless of how this season has gone, you still want to beat Oregon. You still want to beat your rival, and you still want to beat the number one team in the country, even if it wouldn't really mean much to them. And if Oregon does go into this game and decide, hey, we don't want it, you can have a free win, we're thinking about bigger things, and Washington gets a win that way, then I'll take it. I'm not gonna be I'm not going to pick nits at that. I'm not going to look for the glass half empty approach. I'm gonna be like, yeah, we beat Oregon. We have a winning record. We secured the winning record. So I'm hoping for good things. So I hope to see you guys tomorrow when I do that. But realistically, even though I am going to go ahead with the stream from my laptop, I'm doing it because this is what I do for Huskies games, not because I'm expecting a positive result. Oregon, this seems to be their year. And partially it's because it feels like the other heavy hitters are just not hitting as hard. I don't think this Oregon team is as good as last year's Oregon team. I think last year's Oregon team was a little bit better, and I think the level of competition has dropped by enough to where Oregon can be a pretty decent amount ahead of everybody else. Maybe not Ohio State, because Ohio State took them to the last second, and literally if there was another 2 seconds left on the clock, they may have won that game. So I don't want to say they're head and shoulders above Ohio State, but it does feel like they're a better team. And you look at the season they've had so far, they've had some sloppy games, but really they've only been pushed twice all season. Boise State. Boise State's a 10-win going on 11-win team. And they got pushed by Ohio State, who's the number 2 team in the country. So when it's all shaken out, they've had a very dominant regular season. And I don't think they're as good as like Michigan last year. I don't think they're as good as some of the peak Nick Saban Alabama teams, but they have ultimately landed here where they are, I think, pretty definitively the best team in the country. And I do suspect that this is their year to just go all the way. I mean, I was looking at their defense earlier today, and it's like, okay, Oregon's defense isn't that good. You can run up some points on them, but you look at it and you're like, they've only allowed 20 points or more twice this whole year. One to Boise State, one to Ohio State. That's not even really that bad. Every other game is like, oh, 18 points allowed, 15 points allowed, 0 points allowed, 10 points allowed. So even that side of the ball has been really, really good. So I don't know what you look for here. I think Washington's defense has been fairly good this year, but this is the kind of game where I think things break down a little bit, maybe even break down a lot. And I suspect that this offense, which is hamstrung by just a lack of overall talent, is not going to be able to hack it. So I don't see how this game doesn't get away from us. I just don't. If Oregon wants it. If they don't want it and they play a bunch of backups and then they're running like trick plays to throw the ball to like their punter or something and they're faking field goals 8 times and doing stuff like that, okay, different. But if they play a normal, sane football game, I don't see it. And obviously, I'm down with that. Like, before this season started, I fully expected that Oregon would be one of the top teams. I didn't think they were going to be the top team necessarily, but I thought they'd be up there. And I thought Washington was going to be about an average team, which they have been. The the things that I'm looking for in this game, like, I don't even know. I don't even know. I'd like to say I'm looking for Jonah Coleman to go over 100 yards and have a good game. But I don't even know if I'm looking for that. Like, we're going to fall behind pretty quickly in all likelihood, and then we have to abandon the run. I'd like to say I'm looking for Will Rogers to have a good game, but that's probably not going to happen either. And again, Will Rogers, I don't think he's going to be here next year. I don't even think he can. And even if he is, I don't necessarily know if I want him back. So who cares about that? I'd say, hey, I want Devin Williams to have a good game. Okay, that's a little bit better, but does he have a chance? Like, the talent discrepancy is pretty big here. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I track NFL draft stuff throughout the year. There is like one player on this Huskies team that is expected to be drafted in the 2025 NFL draft, and barely. Like, as a party, the tackle, he's expected to maybe be a late day 3 pick. That's it. So you compare that to what Oregon has, where they've got multiple receivers that are going to get drafted. They've got Terrence Ferguson. They've got several offensive linemen. They've got guys like Jabbar Muhammad on defense. They've got Bassa on defense. They've got, who's that oversized edge they have? I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but point is, there's just clear talent discrepancy here. And there's also, if we're being honest at this point, a coaching discrepancy because Jedd Fisch has been pretty mediocre this year. So Oregon will get their revenge. Of course, that revenge won't really mean anything because it doesn't really help Oregon. And honestly, winning this game, I mean, I'd love it, but it's not like Washington is going to make the playoff if they win this game or anything, right? They're still a 5-loss team. It's still a mediocre year. So I guess that's our revenge. Our revenge is that this game doesn't really mean much. So we can go ahead, get drilled, and we still got our bowl game. We still got a decent season, a season that was in line with my expectations before the year started. And it's cool. Sometimes you just have to know when you're beaten. And going into Oregon to play the Ducks when they are on a roll like this, when your team has these clear and obvious problems, that's just a moment to shrug your shoulders and say, okay, how bad is it going to be? And be cool with it. So, wish I had something better to say, but I got to be real, I don't. See you guys later. Bow down to Washington. See you guys tomorrow for the game.